Before this video starts, if you enjoy this video, there are many more like it already on the channel, with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. I upload 6 days a week on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent basketball talk, this is the place for it. Also, drop a like on this video, it only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference. Today, I wanted to talk about something that I have felt for quite a while now, which is that the center position is dying in the NBA. As the years have gone on, the center position has gradually dwindled, though there has been a bit of a resurgence lately. There was a period of time where Joakim Noah, Marc Gasol, and a washed Dwight Howard were the 3 best centers in the NBA, which, like, those are 3 good players, but it's pretty pathetic when you consider the context of that position throughout NBA history. But as I said recently, we've seen more really good centers coming into the league in Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, Karl-Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, and Bam Adebayo. However, in spite of all of that, we have not seen a team win a championship with a center as the team's best player since Shaquille O'Neal, and there's a reason for that. As the NBA and basketball has grown, the perimeter elements of the game have become far more important than the interior elements of the game, and the overall value of the center position has seen a notable dip that I think could become a significant dip as the years go on. So let's talk about why I believe the center position is dying in the NBA. Now, I do want to make it clear right from the start that I don't think there just aren't going to be centers in the NBA in 5 years. Rarely does progress move that quickly. However, I do think we are seeing a trend of where the position is going in terms of how it's expected to be played, as well as a devaluing of the position. And as for why I think that's going to continue, well, I'm basing this on the past few seasons in the NBA. But really, what fully pushed me over the edge was what happened this season with the Houston Rockets going small. Yes, this is the 20th video in 2 weeks that I'm going to be talking about the small ball in Houston because I think that's pretty damn vital to this topic, but this is something that has been a trend for a while, and it wasn't just the Rockets that started this. This started with the Miami Heat, then accelerated with the Golden State Warriors, and I expect to become a real trend with the Houston Rockets. I don't want to give the Heat too much credit for embracing small ball because they were essentially forced to, with basically the entire league unanimously agreeing not to trade a center to the Heat, which forced them to move Bosh to center, LeBron to the 4, and run a 3-and-D small forward alongside those two to space the floor. Initially doing this just out of pure necessity, the Miami Heat stumbled onto something great, which was even further elevated by Chris Bosh starting to shoot 3-pointers. But this move didn't fully make centers die out, obviously. It just made the versatility at the center position a little bit more important than it was previously. Like now as a center, it is much more important to be versatile on defense and to be able to shoot the 3-ball. And for those players that still can't do that, those guys are really about to be eradicated, but we'll talk about that in a second. Before that, the requirement was essentially rebound, block shots, and sometimes post up. Now it's a lot more than that. Versatility suddenly became more valued in the position than it ever had been before, but the Warriors took this a step further by running the death lineup where a 6'6" Draymond Green not only played center, but played it well. The lineup of Curry, Clay, Iggy, Harrison Barnes, and Draymond Green is one of the deadliest lineups in NBA history, hence the nickname Lineup of Death. As for the reason why Draymond wasn't just completely decimated by bigs, well, 1, this was a very versatile, switchy defense that could handle multiple positions. 2, it's better to be killed by big men than perimeter players anyway, so this was still a good defensive team. And 3, the center position has not really been all that dominant, and general big men have not been that dominant the past couple of years. And in the West specifically, it was basically Anthony Davis, whose team wasn't good enough all around to overtake the Warriors, even if he averaged 50 in a series versus them, and DeMarcus Cousins couldn't even get into the playoffs in the first place. But even if those bigs were more common, while Draymond may have been at a disadvantage on defense, so was whoever was playing center for the opposing team, because at least early on, Draymond could shoot. I still don't know where that went, but he could. The Warriors were a perimeter-oriented team, and a player like DeMarcus Cousins or Rudy Gobert really could not keep up with that when they were trying to play defense, especially considering the pace, because this team ran like hell. And again, this is a trade-off. Like, if you're running this small ball lineup, you are running the risk of giving up more points in the paint. However, if you run a more traditional lineup, you're also going to significantly harm your offense. But when you look at the Warriors and Heat, they never fully committed to small ball. Like, Andrew Bogut and then eventually Kevon Looney were still on the team and still often necessary, especially when running into teams that could match their small ball speed while still being dominant in the paint, like the Cavaliers, and the Heat had Chris Anderson for when they needed to run it bigger. But the Houston Rockets looked at that and it was like, we're going all the way in on this. So now 6'5" PJ Tucker is our starting center, 6'8" Robert Covington is our starting power forward. Fuck your traditional center. And the thing is, it has been working. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't believe this team is going to win a championship. I did pick them as a dark horse, but they're a dark horse for a reason. But the reason why this team isn't going to win a title is not because of small ball, it's because of other factors outside of that, like the Lakers and the Clippers or Bucks existing. If this Rockets team still had Capela, I promise you they would not be better, they'd be a good bit worse. Because while yes, they would no longer have that size disadvantage, their offense would be much worse. An offense that is also a mismatch for the centers that can kill them inside at times. I've said this in 2 videos already, but it's a trade-off. So what does this mean for centers, and in particular star centers in the modern NBA? Well, I think some players are actually going to thrive with the league taking the direction it has, others not. 2 players that I expect to move down in the ranks in the coming years because of these factors. As for why those 2 specifically, well, there is pretty much nothing modern about their games. Embiid shoots threes but not well, and he is not respected from out there, and even if he was, he's still a post player at his core, a play style that has gradually fizzled out as perimeter play has become more and more essential as the 3-point shot has increased in value. Like, if I'm choosing a player to be my star in 1990 and it's between Joel Embiid and Steph Curry, I'm choosing Joel Embiid. But it's not 1990. In today's league, a player that can create his own shot at an elite level from outside the 3-point line is a lot more fucking valuable than a guy who can score in the post, no matter how good that post scorer is. That's just how it is. In 2020, I do not want a center or more traditional power forward to be my team's franchise player, like, at all. Wings and guards who can create their own shot on the perimeter are just simply the most valuable players to have today, and a center whose primary ability is posting up is not. That doesn't mean Embiid is bad. Far from it, he's just not ideal in 2020. As for Rudy Gobert, I think his type of player is going to be completely eradicated from the NBA by like 15 years. Like, at least with Joel Embiid, he can score outside of just a lob and a putback, and he at least does take 3-pointers. Rudy Gobert is the type of player that is just a massive liability in terms of spacing because he has no jump shot whatsoever. That's the same reason why Clint Capela was traded from the Rockets. Because the Rockets never ran pick and rolls anymore, Clint was just standing in the paint, keeping his rim protecting defender in the paint to bring help every time Harden or Russ drove inside. Instead, now PJ Tucker is standing in the corner instead of Clint Capela standing in the paint, which means that a center that's guarding PJ is going to either leave him open or they're going to have to let James Harden drive inside. Instead, now PJ stands in the corner, and if someone like Rudy Gobert is guarding him, he's going to be leaving him open quite a bit, and I actually kind of want to see that series now with the Rockets running small ball because I know Rudy is going to get torn apart and it's going to prove my theory. But guys like Bam, Jokic, Karl Anthony Towns, and like a player like Miles Turner, those guys are going to be just fine. All of them are versatile. Bam can defend every position, put the ball on the floor and play make. Jokic can shoot and play make. Cat, when he's retired, is going to have the title of the greatest shooter ever. And players like Miles Turner just play their role without being a hindrance with his 3-point shot. These players who have fully adapted to a perimeter-oriented game are certainly going to be just fine, if not better, in a modern league. Though, a guy like Jokic, who's as slow as he is also going to gradually be a hindrance as well, because eventually you'll be able to find someone who can do what Jokic can do and isn't quite as slow. And as for players like Clint Capela, a big factor for why that entire role has been devalued is because it's not a hard one to find for a lot cheaper than what Clint Capela goes for. Like, say you get a guy like Tristan Thompson for $5 million or Clint Capela for 18. Is there really a $13 million difference in terms of the value those two guys are bringing? I wouldn't say so. Just draft a guy like Daniel Gafford in the second round like the Bulls did. Like, he can at least do 60% of what Clint Capela did for like $2 million, and it's not a role that's nearly as essential as it used to be. And as threes are shot more and more, within a few years, I think you will have to be an elite talent like Giannis in order to get away with being a poor shooter on an NBA floor. Like, the amount of tolerance for being a bad shooter has gone down every year, and the center position as we know it is going to die because of that. Rebounding, rim protecting, and alley-oop big men in the same vein as like Tyson Chandler are not going to be a thing in the NBA 15 years from now. Big men who cannot defend outside of the paint are soon going to be a thing of the past. Big men who cannot shoot are soon going to be a thing of the past. Big men who only can score in the post are soon going to be a thing of the past. Big men who can only rebound are definitely going to be a thing of the past, because I've talked about why rebounding is really not nearly as important as it used to be, but point is, the center position is dying. Now, whether or not you agree that that's a good direction for basketball just from a pure entertainment standpoint is irrelevant to the conversation of how modern basketball is weeding modern big men out. But that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.